Michael Lewis's new book, Going Infinite, The Rise and Fall of a New Tycoon, is all about Sam Bankman-Fried's crypto empire. Emily, we've been seeing a lot of headlines from his 60 Minutes interview about the book this week, but you actually read the whole book. So tell us about what you read. And is the depiction in the media matching what's actually in the book?
Yeah. So of course, it's 60 minutes. There's some sound bites. This is a relatively long and in-depth book. So I don't think the 60 minute sound bites do justice exactly to what he's trying to say. The 60 minute sound bites that are creating a lot of attention. One is, where he kind of says, okay, FTX wasn't a Ponzi scheme. It was a great real business. And if there hadn't been people sort of denigrating the business, and if there hadn't been a so-called run on the bank, like the business would still be basically printing money. That has caused a lot of fury in the crypto community. The book itself, I would say, does have a relatively sympathetic portrait of Sam Bankman-Fried, but I wouldn't say that Michael Lewis is, firmly on his side. I mean, if you read the book, you don't necessarily come away with an impression of, a great guy. But I think the issue here, and the reason why this is so problematic, is that something that Michael Lewis said on 60 Minutes that I think is not getting enough attention, but should be, is that he himself referred to his book as a letter to the jury, which I think is a little bit strange. And I think that's why, it's hard to sort of just dismiss it as being like, oh, this is just like a fun read, because he himself is sort of positioning it as something that is meant to go directly to jurors, which is just a somewhat strange characterization of, a work of so-called journalism.
By the way, when Jen says impressions from the media, she's not talking about Nick's picture. Who comes across, obviously CZ comes across as a type of villain. I think Darth Vader was the characterization before the scandals even broke out. And that would, of course, make Sam as Luke Skywalker. I don't know which episode, though, are we talking about? Is it towards the end of Empire Strikes Back when he kind of turns to the dark side? Like, what's going on here? What exactly is, how is CZ portrayed throughout? Is he still portrayed as an evil character, if you will? If so, what things happen in any revelations in the book, any particular instances in the book that show that?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. And you're right. So basically what you're referring to is that before the book was published, there was an agency letter that was circulating around Hollywood that was sort of selling the book as, this battle between good and evil. And CZ was portrayed as Darth Vader in this letter. And, obviously the book comes out now in the midst of this high profile trial. But I would say that some traces of that characterization definitely remain in the book. I mean, obviously this is a book that is not about Binance and not about CZ, but the portrayal of Binance and CZ is definitely relatively superficial. He is portrayed negatively. He's portrayed as a rival. I feel like some of the implicit message there is that, it was CZ that kind of took the whole thing down. And I think that is kind of implied also in Michael Lewis's comments to 60 Minutes that, if CZ hadn't sort of, been tweeting about FTT, maybe, FTX would still be alive and kicking. So I would say that, yes, Sam Bankman-Fried's rivals are portrayed negatively and fairly superficially, and CZ is definitely a good example of that. Whatever you think of CZ, it's not a very deep characterization. He just has a sort of it's somewhat one-sided.
So more Boba Fett / Lando Calrissian than okay. Sorry, we're Star Wars nerds. I apologize.
I mean, I think that the larger point here is that, Michael Lewis clearly started this book way before FTX collapsed. And so, I think he went in, and he admits this himself, that he was initially very charmed by Sam Bankman-Fried. And so he went in probably intending to write a very different kind of book, clearly had to go back and revise it. But I do think some of that initial structure and that initial characterization remains. And I think what's important about this, I kind of feel like everybody, including me right now, is spending way too much time talking about Michael Lewis, which is kind of besides the point. The point is that everybody sort of fell for Sam Bankman-Fried, right? That's sort of the larger point here. It wasn't just Michael Lewis. It was, the venture capitalists. It was celebrities. It was athletes. It was a lot of people in the crypto community. Everybody hates Sam Bankman-Fried now. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people hate Sam Bankman-Fried now. But as you remember, when FTX was, when FTX was flying high, I did not hear a lot of dissent within the crypto community, right? We did not hear a lot of criticism.
And the fact that one guy was able to kind of like do all this in crypto, is it sort of a condemnation of crypto in a way that you constantly have these particular characters that come out and kind of overturn the whole system constantly? This was supposed to be, as we've discussed, this is supposed to be the antidote to what's going on in regular finance, but it seems that you have. You have these guys, you have Sam Bankman-Fried, you have Do Kwon, you have Alex Mashinsky. You constantly have these characters pop up who have incredible sway in the market. And is it almost like Sam Bankman-Fried failed up?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the key question. So I think the way to frame it is that it's not a failure of crypto, it's a failure of the ideals which crypto are supposed to stand on, right? So, right, the whole idea of crypto and blockchain technology is that's supposed to be trustless. You're supposed to avoid putting too much trust in any one human being. This is almost a cliche. We hear this over and over again. And instead, you have, these kind of cults of personality. You have these overly powerful figures, overly powerful companies. And, as many will point out, fraud is not unusual in the financial world. But what is unusual is that one individual could cause such a domino effect. And I think the problem is that many people saw Sam Bankman-Fried to represent crypto. You could argue that that's not the crypto industry's fault, but that's still what happened. So I think the bottom line here, and I think this is something that Michael Lewis points out, is that one person, one company should not have had such a disastrous impact on an entire industry.
All right, Emily, thanks for giving us that preview. You can read Emily's full review of the book on CoinDesk.com. And don't miss all of our coverage on the Sam Bankman-Fried trial on CoinDesk TV, CoinDesk.com. Subscribe for the SBF trial newsletter.